still of the night. I think of you.
The blogger was speculating if she had found a new lover or had moved on from billionaire Stanley, who got married recently. She saw that she wasn't even worth a mention from the blogger, and that wasn't the only blog carrying the news. She sat there puzzled, heartbroken, and wondering what was going on. How did Betty know these were the exact type of pieces she got from Mma? How could she have known? Then it dawned on her, and she sighed with fury as she remembered she had impulsively sent Stanley pictures of the lingerie. Did he? Could he? No, no way. She could not see Stanley being childish or cruel enough to buy same lingerie for Betty from Mma, who was his best friend's wife. She stood up and began to pace. Just then, the door opened and Stanley entered. He was a bit startled seeing her pacing in the living room with agitation. She didn't come to hug with a smile and kiss as she used to do. Is everything all right? Star stared at him silently in anger, trying with all her willpower to calm down. Did he forget to test her he was working late? He remembered writing the test. Did he forget to send it? I am sorry, but I thought I sent you a test. I will be working late. I got your test. He looked at her puzzled again. So what's going on? She stared at him, trying to hold back her tears. If you don't tell me what's going on, love, how am I supposed to know? It's viral, all over the social media. What is? He took out his phone. Calm down, Soma. Be reasonable. Use your magic words, she chanted to herself. Betty's post. He saw Betty in some underwears. What has Betty getting a new man have to do with us? Seriously? What is this all about? You don't seriously recognize the underwears? How in the world am I supposed to recognize that? I've had a long day. This is not the welcome I was expecting from. Kindly take a look at the pictures I sent you earlier. He opened his phone again and understanding dawned on him, but at the same time anger. She actually thought he would stoop so low to send Betty lingerie pictures sent by his own wife? What kind of a man did she take him for? So you saw this and thought what? I sent it to her? I haven't accused you of anything yet, but you are all strung up waiting for me to come home so you can? Why are you yelling? I'm the one. No! You are not the one right here. If you think I could be this kind of a man, I've been waiting here to tell you to stop seeing Betty. In any capacity, I am telling you, cut her off your life. You are telling me? Since when? How did I come across to you as a kind of man you can command? I am going to cut short this ridiculous argument. You want something from me? You ask. You don't tell. He walked out. Star stood there puzzled. How did the matured, reasonable conversation she was going to have with him come to this? She flopped down on the couch sobbing. Stanley stood by the window in his study, fuming with anger. He had watched his parents argue all his life. As he grew older, he knew his mother was too in touch with her masculine side, wanted to be the captain of the ship, wanting his father's obedience, and he was not going to have the same in his marriage. How did Betty get the same type of lingerie as his wife? Betty was the one sending the mother notes. He didn't know if what he felt was relief it was childish tactics of a girl scorned, or disappointment his chance to take down a deadly villain was taken. He turned away from the window. Yet, there was a fleeting foreboding feeling he was missing something, that there was a piece of the puzzle he was not yet seeing. Stanley came into their bedroom and found her already asleep on the bed. He regretted the harsh way he had ended their conversation. He decided he was going to find a way to make it up to her. He laid down and to his surprise she turned to him in her sleep, and he wrapped his arms around her. Star woke up and reached for her husband, but his side of bed was empty. Startled, she sat up. She had never woken up without him by her side. Confused, she looked at her phone. It was barely 7 o'clock. Where could he be? Then, the memories of the night before began to filter into her mind. She sighed. She could not even begin to understand how the conversation had gotten out of hand. He didn't even have the decency to wait and hear her out last night. He just walked out on her, and as if that wasn't enough, he was avoiding her, leaving before she woke up. Last night was the first night since they got married he didn't make love to her. With a sharp feeling of dread, she sat up, and then she noticed the breakfast tray on the bedside, a note propped by a teapot, and a single rose flower laying beside it. She took the note and read it out loud. Crisis at Ajibola Group. Had to leave early. Sorry about my outburst last night. Love, S. And somehow, just like magic, her morning began to brighten. Slowly but with a bright and happy smile, she picked up the rose and breathed in the scent. She dropped the flower, making a mental note to find a pot for it once she got off for the day. Then she lifted the breakfast tray and was delighted to find all her favorites. Stanley might not know how to boil water to save his life, but he sure knew how to order the best foods. She wondered what crisis Ajibola Group could be having that warranted him to leave this early. Ever since he took over the reins of that business, his uncles have fought him from one decision to another. They have made restoring the business twice as hard. Sometimes, she wondered if he was not better off without it. She wore the white suit he bought for her when they came back from Silver Paradise and matched it with a luxury white bag she had gotten from her honeymoon. The astonishing part was they have received only one threat since they came back from their honeymoon. The person had sent a threat the morning they came back, and it read, "Your days are numbered." That was weeks ago. No threat since then. But it seemed as if they needn't fear anymore. All hands point to Betty as the guilty one. How was she able to harass her time and time again, knowing her exact location every time? She must have a way, maybe through her GPS, or she had people watching her. In any case, she knew somehow Betty was the one sending the mother threats. Then why did she stop sending? She wondered if she has finally received some sense, or decided since her text messages were not working, tormenting her the way she was doing recently was the best approach. Either way, the weight was taking its toll on her. She came down the stairs, found Jeremiah and David waiting for her. Stanley had added David to her security detail when they received the third threat. He said he was not taking any chances. "Good morning, Mrs. Silver." She smiled at them, greeting them back. David took her briefcase from her while Jeremiah led the way to the waiting bulletproof vehicle. The first meeting was with Uche. She entered his office and he smiled at her genuinely. "You are glowing, or should I say twinkling?" She laughed and sat down. "I take that as his compliment." "How is Stanley?" "He's well. The Ajibola Group is making him earn his keep. I trust my boy." He turned to his laptop. "No more threats still?" He looked up from his system. It was at the tip of her tongue to tell him they might have found the culprit, but she wasn't sure of her theory yet, and she wanted to discuss it with Stanley first. "I don't know if I should be relieved or be more frightened by that. I think he's biding his time. It's almost impossible for him to get to you. Your house is like Fort Knox. Where you work is impenetrable. You move around in an armored car with highly trained bodyguards. He will need to think outside the box if he's going to grab either one of you." Stanley walked into Chief Abimbola's house. A maid led him to the living room. At the door, he watched Chief Abimbola and his wife waiting for him. He had called earlier to ask to see them. All morning, he had thought about how to handle Betty. He had spoken to Jeremiah and had learned of all the times she had mysteriously appeared at Star's exact location. He had wanted her questioned by the police with the murder threats as evidence, but the Abimbolas and his family go a long way. He decided to do this first. "Hello, Stanley." Chief stood up with excitement, oblivious to why he came. Stanley smiled and walked into the living room, bowing slightly to Chief Abimbola and his wife. "Please sit down," his wife gestured. "I hope all is well. I am here to talk about Betty." "Betty?" "My last card, Betty. She's an astounding woman, very smart and beautiful. It is a pity it didn't work out between you two. Let's hear him out first, shall we? He sounds very serious. Stanley felt sorry for the man whose illusion about his daughter is about to shatter. How serious can it be, Stanley, when you're already married? So calm down and let's talk. There is nothing that can't be undone. This is serious enough to warrant litigation. Finally, he got Abimbola paying attention. He wondered how the man had maintained his family legacy, seeming to have cotton wool for brains. Few days before my marriage, my wife and I began receiving murder threats from an unknown person, warning us to break up or die. Stanley watched the elderly couple's crushed faces as he made it clear to them the only suspect was Betty. Because of her recent stalking of his wife, he tried but did not see much of a surprise from either of them when he mentioned coincidences that should have shocked them. I came to you first because our families have come a long way. Please, Chief, as much as I don't want to see Betty in prison or your family suffer, if this continues, I will use every means available to me to protect my family. I will talk to Betty, but I know the daughter I raised. No daughter of mine will stoop to this. I appreciate you coming to us first, but if my daughter is just being framed, I will fight for her too, with all that I have got. That is what every father should do. I will do, Chief. But to fight me, bear in mind, I am the force behind Ajibola, Silva, and Dagogo groups. I hope it never comes to that. He did not miss the man's subtle threats when he said he'll fight for Betty. Okay, Stanley, I'll talk to Betty. And his wife began. Just then, Betty came in. She had been hiding behind the door. When Stanley called and said he wanted to see her father, it was the first time he would make such a request. She and her father had thought maybe he regretted his marriage and wanted to marry her. Only her mother cautioned them, saying that his marriage was too new for that, and suggested he was coming to finalize their business alliance. She was happy either way because it meant she would be with him often. After hearing what he came for, she had teared up, but comforted herself as an idea occurred to her. I am sorry about all the coincidences, Stanley, but I swear to you, I never sent any murder notes or stalked your wife. I had reasons to be at the places we met, and I only greeted her because I saw her as a friend. She dashed tears from her eyes. Her mother went to her to comfort her. It's okay, sweetheart, don't cry. I am sure Stanley knows you would never stoop so low. All I did was extend a hand of friendship. Why would your wife slander me like this? She could have just said no to the friendship than tarnishing my image. What a family. Stanley mused silently and sent some gratitude to Heavenly Father. Did not marry her. I am leaving now. But Chief, I meant every word I said. He could see the shocked expressions on their faces. This was not the response they were expecting from him after the drama presented by mother and daughter. I will walk you out. No need. He left. The three of them turned to one another. I suggested you set your sights on someone else when he married, but you and your dad did not listen to me. Now see this embarrassment. But Adiola's husband was already married when she met him, and you helped her. Adiola's husband was forced into his first marriage by his parents. Your sister was his true love. Sheila's husband was engaged when she met him, and you helped her too. Sheila's husband's family was going through a financial crisis. It was easy to get him and his parents to change their minds. I love him too much. I can't just give him up. I just can't. She ran away from the room crying. Star sat in her office a few hours later. I thought about her conversation with Uche. If he was biding his time and looking for a way to grab either of them, shouldn't they make it a bit easy? All they wanted was for him to show his face. They even got married because of it. Wasn't too much protection defeating their purpose of getting married? She decided she was going to run it by Stanley to see what he would think, just in case Betty turned out not to be the culprit. They haven't really done much for fun since they came back from their honeymoon. It was as if their life was being ruled by the faceless monster, Betty and Ajibola group. Shouldn't they do something different tonight? What could she do to make it special? She picked up her phone and saw Eva's text instead, inviting her for a girls' hangout at Mma's townhouse. She readily agreed. She missed her girls, and they could help give her some ideas on how to make the night special for her husband. She packed her bag and was ready to leave when she got another message. It was a photo of Stanley with Beth and her parents in her house with a message. Doesn't this look like a betrothal discussion? She stared at the photo beyond shocked.
In the still of the night, I think of you. My heart beats with every thought of you.